Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the AC3. Thank you for your time. I'm going to do something a little bit different this time. And normally I email out any draft materials we have beforehand for your review so that we can have discussion about it at the meeting. But I know that people are just busy and don't have a lot of time. So to make sure everyone has a chance to review it and discuss it, I'm going to have the first 10 minutes of the meeting just be we can turn our cameras off if we want, turn on mute, so we can review the document and get some, collect our thoughts about it so that we can then reconvene and have a discussion about the draft application. Did everyone get it? Can everyone see it in their email? Yeah, okay. Great. So the first part is the draft application, and that was taken from a previous draft document you may remember, which was our process document. And we built on that in our last co-chairs meeting. We kind of got a little more specific with it. And at the end of the document, there's the beginnings of a scoring rubric for the application. So having said that, let's go. I'm going to go ahead and start a 10-minute clock. Again, feel free to turn off your video and mute yourself or whatever you would like. If I were fancy, I'd play some awesome music right now for you all. And we could also dance while we were doing it, but I'm not so fancy. So feel free to do that on your own. Okay, see you in 10 minutes, everyone. Hi, everyone. I forgot to mention there are two spots in the draft that are highlighted, and they're highlighted yellow because they're items that we need to discuss and figure out today. Thanks. You're just checking in. It's a 7-minute mark. I see a few screens turned back on. Does anyone still need time, or are people feeling like they had a chance to really look through the document and think on it? That's a tricky question to ask a group. Does anyone need more time? Hearing no response, I'm going to assume that we're okay. Moving on. Okay, great. So I'm going to share a screen so we can go through comments in the document. So bear with me. Oh, I need to open it still.
You will need to spotlight the interpreter for the recording to capture me with the document, just to let you know.
Absolutely, Miriam. Thank you for the reminder.
Heather, I have a more general question.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned, part of the agenda is talking about the steering committee that's going to be formed to work with the consultant. And that some of the AC3 members could be serving on that committee. So there'll be some restructuring of the AC3 meetings. So my question is, do we need to fill these vacancies right now while all that is going on? I guess that's my general question.
That was my 10-minute timer. Sorry. That's a good question. So the next item we were going to discuss after this was the steering committee, but your question is a good one, and I'd like to open it up to other members. What do other members think? Do we
Well,
prioritize?
I think that's a very good question, Annette. Because I think in this document, it says what our workload will include, and we're going to fill out that or discuss that information. But actually, maybe for the next year, it actually includes less than it would ordinarily. And maybe we don't need to fill those other. I mean, I don't know if this is a discussion we should have, because this year is going to be a little different, that we have the plan being worked on. I don't know what other people think. That's a very good question on that. Yeah, Amanda.
Me personally, I'm inclined to say have people join in partially for attrition's sake, because there are some people who have been doing this for a while, and if they need to step out, they might feel more pressure not to if those seats aren't filled. And also because I think not filling those seats will impact the diversity of voices that we have available. And I know that this is a diverse crew, but again, if somebody needs to step back, they might be reluctant to feeling like their voice isn't going to be heard or replaced if they step back.
Yeah.
I agree. I was going to say fill the spots to have maybe some new perspective as well, but definitely have a full team. Even if the workload is less or different.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for those. Now I think you sort of put a perspective that I wasn't looking at. So I think you're right, though. We should just go on as we are. And then when we get to the place where we're only going to have, 3 meetings instead of 4, or 2 meetings instead of 4, whatever, then we'll do that. But I think you're right. We just need to follow what the plan is and then adjust when we get, I think thank you, Amanda and Sarah. Yeah.
And maybe it's helpful too to go ahead and mention, because the next item is to talk about who, to basically figure out who of members here want to be on the steering committee for the plan. But maybe it's relevant too to go ahead and talk about one scenario we envisioned is having less AC3 meetings to really enable AC3 members that want to be on the steering committee for the plan to do that work, as well as be on AC3. So one kind of proposal we had was we're envisioning the steering committee to meet quarterly. So assuming the plan really does take a year, as we're intending it to, it would be 4 meetings of the steering committee. And if we wanted to decrease the number of AC3 meetings to make it the steering committee more accessible to AC3 members, then really what we're looking at is we know that there are 2 critical meetings for AC3. It's around August and October when we're doing the budget planning for the next year's percent for the arts funding. So if you think of it that way, it would be 6 meetings in the next year, which is kind of what we have AC3 at already when we're meeting every other month, but they might be a little crunched in summer and fall, right? Because I think it would mean that we have 2 meetings in summer and 2 in fall. but we could try to schedule them in a way that's, you know, makes it a little less intense. So does that impact anyone's thoughts on that? Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Yeah, that makes sense to me. Yeah.
Okay.
I was just gonna say that I agree with the desire to bring in fresh perspectives with new members. I just wondered about the logistics of it all. That's why I raised that question.
Yeah.
Mhm, mhm.
Blue joined us at some point. Hi, Blue. Just to let you know, I emailed everyone the draft membership application right before this meeting. And we took the first few minutes of the meeting to give everyone time to review it. So, and right now we're going to open it and start talking about it. So let me share screen.
Hi, everybody. Sorry to have missed this first half an hour of the meeting.
Where did I? Okay. Let me spotlight Miriam again. There we go. Great. Okay. So let's look at, again, this highlighted part. We're going to get to a little bit more. I mean, I just kind of introduced a proposal to you on what that workload would be, but we'll kind of finalize that discussion after the discussion of the application. Does anyone have any general feedback on kind of the background intro of the application? It's always a balance of wanting to give good background, but not wanting to give so much that it's overwhelming for people to read about. So any thoughts, feedback, edits?
No, I think it looks very good, actually.
Thank you.
In
Just
terms of the three vacancies, is there a particular area that we're trying to go, like some gaps within, certain areas that we want to target certain groups for representation?
So I think that's a good opening to a discussion. And definitely we have the list of members here. So if we want to talk about, artist versus organization, share, or look at different mediums that artists are working in, that's definitely something we can open up to discussion right now.
Well, one of the areas I think that we should be thinking about, and forgive me if I miss that somebody is already involved with this. It could be that I just don't know. But I think that having someone really involved in the local music scene would be, really important. And maybe somebody already is. I don't know. I'm looking down the list here, but I think most of us are not heavily involved with the music scene. Maybe so. I think that that's an important element that's not here.
That's great. Any other gaps that other folks see in the membership?
Along
man.
with that, oh, sorry.
How about maybe
Go ahead.
writers? How about
Go
maybe
ahead.
writers? Am I seeing a area of writers and authors in here or anything like that? I don't know.
And I was going to add the dance community. There's no representation. Thomas. I know, but I mean,
No,
thinking
you're
of Garth
absolutely-
Fagan,
You're absolutely right.
Boddington Dance, City Ballet.
Yeah,
I'm thinking
right. No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
of dance specific orgs.
No, I think you're right about
Of course, we have the master of dance with us.
that. No, you're right about that. I think that's another area. Yeah,
Community dance.
yeah.
So it's interesting. Nydia with Borinquen was on,
Oh,
and
right.
she stepped off, but as part of this process, I could reach out to her to see if if one of her, Jaime is working with her. I don't know if she has, how many employees she has, but I know Jaime is full-time at Borinquen Dance Theater, and maybe he has time to be on AC, or to apply to be on AC3. So, you know, I could make sure to loop her in on this.
Okay. Yeah, Amanda said a couple of things in the chat. Mural arts community and music arrangement in institutions or individual. Well, I was actually more thinking of individual performers, but now that you bring it up, you know, I guess. I mean, I think that the local music, I mean, I wasn't particularly thinking of the organizations, but because I just think that there's such a vibrant local rock, pop, jazz, or whatever else, blues, community of, you know, going on, that they're not really like keyed into this.
Right, like someone from the local, what is it, Sound Collective?
Yeah, what is that called? Is that the name of it?
I believe so.
Yeah, something like
Yeah.
that. Or oh yeah, like the Highsmith. Yeah, exactly. Highsmith sisters. Yeah, that's exactly correct. Yeah. Or people in that you know world. Yeah, because I mean they in a sense they don't really have a voice here.
I think it would also be important, given a couple of folks that had stepped away from this group, that we
Mhm.
reestablish having presence from larger arts institutions. In particular, having someone that could serve as a liaison to the M group.
Oh, that's true.
I think that would be important.
Mhm.
The group you mentioned, the what group?
The M group, which I don't even know what that's M stands for. M is in Mike, but I'm not sure what it stands for.
Oh, it's the I forgot.
It's, I finally found out it stands for, their first meeting was at Max's.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I'm sorry, I don't know what that
important.
group is. What is that group? Sorry.
That.
Sort of
It's
go ahead. Directors or presidents of
right.
the major arts organizations. They have their own little like clique.
Okay.
But yeah, not having a representative from there is probably not such a good idea. We should have some representative. So yeah, those are two areas that I see, or three, I guess, with the Amanda's suggestions.
I guess I have a question about the organizations, like that size. Would we be trying to leverage opportunities to potentially magnify the funding we have available? Like by connecting in with, someone mentioned like the RPO and other organizations of that caliber.
Well, I don't know. Well, you mean like try? Well, I mean, I'm not sure what you mean exactly, because it's not like we're giving money. I mean, what do you mean exactly?
Well, we're steering how percent for the arts funding is. We're kind of creating a map for how we want to be utilizing the percent for the arts funding, and then bringing in partners like Hochstein or RPO or others, the City Ballet, those sorts of organizations. Like, would that be a way to leverage potential opportunities to magnify the amount of funding we can give out to small artists?
Oh,
I guess
well,
was my question.
yeah, I could see that. I could see what you mean. Although, I hate to say it like this, but there'll be more of us than them. um, I hear what you're saying. I don't think that would be really happening unless this was a group of people heavily in those areas. Like, I don't think just one person on here would be able to kind of sway how things would go. I mean, yeah. I mean, is that what you mean? Like, they would sway the way we.
No, I guess I'm totally off base, but I was wondering if they would bring additional resources to the table.
Oh,
I wasn't thinking they would sway how we spend the money. I was
sorry.
hoping they could open up doors for more financial support
Oh,
for
I think you're
small
I think it could, because
artists, yeah.
especially because a lot of those organizations are trying to, you know, collaborate with smaller groups or individual artists and having them in this discussion would benefit, I think. Yeah. I think it absolutely could do that. Yeah. Good thinking. I was sort of thinking something totally different.
So is everyone okay if I put that as a preference? Preference will be awarded. Preference will be something to
Given?
be given. Thank you.
Sure.
Yes. You guys, it's one of those days for me. One of those days. Preference will be given to, and so I'm gonna musicians. I
Well, do you
heard
think we really need to say this? I mean, it's
we
just in the
don't
process
need
of,
to.
because I think it's in the process of how we're choosing that we are in-house talking through those things. What are our needs? I don't think the
Okay.
public needs to know what those needs are so much. I just think, I mean, because maybe somebody will come up that applies that's not any of those things, but looks like, oh my gosh, this person, we really need this. You know what I mean? So I don't want to even though we kind of in-house are doing that, but I don't want to, from my perspective, I don't think we should kind of taint the potential,
Right.
by
I think-
saying that.
I
Yeah.
agree. Yeah, I think.
Yeah,
I
like
think
what Orlando says, we could cast a wider net. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Just for
Prefacing that
internal.
way may discourage other people from other genres or other groups from applying. I noticed like already like in a lot of our applications, a lot of things that we send out, they already like, well, this is focused on this kind of art. So I think that avoiding any language like that would definitely like make a broader call.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so let's move on to the questions portion of the application.
Hey, Heather, before you go to the second page, can you go back to the first page? There's just one minor typo that
Oh, yes.
there. So interested individuals must complete this form. It says compete. Really minor.
Yes. Okay, great. They are competing the form too. Thank you. I am the worst typer, you guys. And those typos are tricky when the typos make an actual word. It's the
Right. Yeah, it doesn't get noticed by the spell check.
Thank you. Okay. So here are the questions, and I saw in the chat that Amanda had said, I do like the idea of including a reference from the committee. Would be a great way of learning quickly if the person is aligned with the community spirit we've been working for. So for number 10, how do folks feel? Do we want to ask for a reference generally, or are we only asking for if there's a reference from an AC3 member, or are we interested in either?
I think either, because what if there's people we don't know? I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't think we can just, yeah.
How many references do we want to ask for? Because that's always there's always
How many do you want to read? That's what I
know.
always say.
That's a big.
I actually was going to suggest because I liked the scoring rubric. Could the references be some sort of scoring rubric or like more specific so that we're asking questions and giving them word limits? So for like you have 2 references, but the reference questions are literally like, what are the scoring categories? Like you as a community member or you as another artist, tell us what this person does in the community.
Yeah.
I think that would limit the kind of information that we get so that we know it's specific to what we're looking for and what they're applying for. And it makes sure that it's like, this is your word limit, your character count. Please don't send us a 10-page essay as great as this person.
That's great. I like putting the word limit. I always ask 2 specific questions of references. They don't always answer them. I would say half of the time they answer the specific questions. The other half of the time, they just free write whatever they want, which is frustrating. It is frustrating. And it's maybe a good thing for people to know that their references do that, so that maybe provide a little like, hey, do you feel comfortable being my reference? Number one. Number two, do you feel comfortable answering a specific question in an email format? Okay, but that's a good, I like the word limit, because there are some that will write huge references, which can be very positive and insightful, but at a certain point, what do we think for that? Do we think like 250 words, 500 words, 250 maybe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because 500 is starting to get, that's like it's an essay. Okay. So, but how many references do we want from folks? Do we want one person or two people? I've kind of gone from city template is 3. I've narrowed it down to 2, but
Yeah.
because even though 2 can be a lot when you have a lot of people, it can be helpful to have a second reference, because sometimes one reference might not give enough information, or it can be helpful to have 2, even though it can be a lot to look at.
I think 2 is fine. I don't know who, because I can't see their faces right now. I know somebody had just mentioned, like, maybe one from a fellow artist or a colleague, I guess, and then one from a community, or I don't know, or I don't know. I forgot what you said exactly, but it just made sense that maybe we don't want 2 references that are both just saying the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Or, I mean, that's how I feel when I'm reading all those references, but.
Or even like suggest if the second reference, like if they do know someone on AC3, since that was something we're considering, like suggest that, one reference from a fellow artist, and then if you know someone from AC3, a reference from them. If not, another artist, like a personal reference.
Yeah, we say if there's someone that is actually applying as a member of an organization, what would be, so from a fellow artist or colleague? Or,
Well, from the organization itself, I guess. I mean, right? I mean, I don't know.
okay,
What are other people?
yeah,
That might be a little bit too broad.
Yeah.
Like saying from the organization, like depending on the size of an organization, like from a comms perspective, like when you say the organization, like who is like the organization, like that face, and they're gonna be like, what do you mean from the organization? I'm just gonna
Well,
give you one from my boss.
Well, I just mean that if they're representing an organization, it might behoove us to so that we know that the organization knows that they're doing it. I mean,
No, I get that.
yeah.
Like I'm saying, like someone from someone within the organization, but maybe be like more specific with like who we're talking about. For example, like if they're like the head of the organization, or like who would be their reference if they're
Well, whoever
leading.
speaks for the organization. I mean, so like, let's say somebody from the RPO would be on here, and then somebody from, like the director or whoever's the spokesperson, whoever would be writing, giving the information. It could be different people. I mean, sometimes it's a marketing person, sometimes it's the director. Sometimes, you know what I mean? It depends on the organization, but just somebody who's representing the organization. It just seems like that might be a good thing. It's sort of a safe. Well, I don't know. I keep thinking of all these scenarios. So
No, I see what you're saying. I'm saying like, what if they are that spokesperson?
that would be, oh well.
Like, you know what I mean? Like they are that face. They are the spokesperson. Like,
yeah, that's a
like
good
when
point.
you think the RCA, like you think, like he
Yeah,
wouldn't be
right.
writing his own reference.
That's a good point. I don't. Now you've stumped me. I have no idea.
Well, I'm wondering if you want to be
Sounds
that
like you want
specific.
like a professional reference here. That's sort of the language I see. So not a personal reference, but maybe somebody who knows the artist professionally, either through work or through their employment or projects that they've been commissioned for, or something like that.
So wait, maybe we say maybe there's a professional reference and a personal reference, and then we've covered it, right?
yeah. Does everyone feel okay with the idea of having a professional reference for this?
And that could be anything. It could be another artist who knows your work. It could be, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I think, and then I think that that's, to me, that's for number 5, maybe better just ask for the, yeah, I think that just covers whatever it is then. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a professional one and there's a personal one. And
Okay.
they're not going to be the same anyway. So some people may have the
Yeah.
same person writing them. I don't know. But
It probably goes without saying that if someone knows someone on AC3, that's going to be their reference. But should we make that explicit? Like if you know someone on the AC3, that member should be one of your references. Should we make that explicit, or is that just kind of, it's implicit, right? People are going to want to do that.
I guess it seems a little nepotism to me. Favoritism. I don't know.
Well, this is interesting because it kind of gets to, you know, we had the discussion over whether people will be selected through nomination or through an open call, right? And so I guess there is still that kind of question about that.
Well, that's true.
But on the other hand, if people know people on AC3, that's kind of going to be part of the review anyway, because you who know them will have experience enough with them to have that inform the discussion, right? So maybe that's also kind of an implicit thing anyway.
What are other people thinking? I don't know really.
Could we like just add like a question? Like, have you worked in a professional capacity with anyone on the AC3? Since we do have everyone listed there, maybe instead of making it reference specific.
Oh, so good. Yeah, good.
Okay.
I like that because I think if you're asking somebody to write a reference, it does start to feel, I know you're joking when you said nepotism, but it does start to feel a little bit like me and my friends are on this committee. And so, you know, I think if we're looking for diversity of opinions, we might not necessarily, I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing that people know each other. It's a small community, so I'm sure lots of people know each other, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I think if it's like, well, this is I've done all these projects with this person, so it's, you know, that might not give us the diversity we're looking for.
Yeah. And I, you know, I think we've had to battle some of that already. So it's.
And I do think that getting a head start on knowing what the names are, like, I don't necessarily have the time or energy to be involved in the whole hiring process, but if Heather shoots me an email like, so-and-so applied, do you know them? Are they
Right.
cool? I can be like, yeah, they're cool, or whoa, red flags.
Right.
And not have to commit a ton of time to the whole hiring
Process. Yeah, that's good.
Okay. So maybe that's before the reference question, we say, have you worked with someone with a current, well, actually it doesn't have to be current, it's a member of the AC3. If so, should we just say who, or do we want them to describe the work that they did with the person? Or is it enough to just say, if so, who? We just want to know a name, right? They don't have to describe the project or what
Right.
capacity they work with the person, or how do people feel about that?
That seems like enough, just the name.
Okay.
And do we want to be specific about have you worked with a member of the AC3 in a professional capacity? Because some, you know, there might be the person who's like, oh, I saw them at this one event and I helped put a post-it note on the mural. No.
Well,
No,
I mean,
you're right though.
It's interesting because this isn't quite like we're not hiring someone for something,
Right, I know. Right.
And so it is kind of an interesting, like, you know, maybe we do want to have something to ensure that they're not just gonna say they know someone, but sorry, go ahead.
No, I just think the name is enough because like Amanda said, you're going to be running the name past us. So
Right,
you'll get the information you need.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not saying like just like to list the thing. I'm just like saying like we like literally like, put the wording with a member of the AC3 in a professional capacity. Like just like make the question itself more specific without listing the project.
But we can get that insight from the member.
Yeah,
then.
I don't think you need to be so
And I
specific.
don't know that we want to say we don't want to give the impression that we're saying you had to have done a paid project for someone in order to list them as someone that you know,
Yeah, I
right? Because
know.
because people might just know each other through community, and we still want that insight, right? I think.
Yeah, yeah. I, but I wonder, but now that you say it like that, I wonder if reading this as an outside person, have you worked with, no, I haven't worked with them, but I know somebody. Or you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Or I haven't. Does that mean I won't get this? I mean, I don't know. Just like, I'm wondering if
Yeah.
if that question is a little bit misleading just because, you know, say you don't know anyone, if you never worked with anyone on here, and what are you thinking? And like, should I apply even? Because why
What
would
if,
the, do you know what I mean? Like, I just think if you see this on the, if you see that question, and are you thinking to yourself, oh, should I not apply because there's this question on here and I haven't worked with anyone?
what if
I don't
it's,
know.
what if we rephrase it as, were you referred to this application by an AC3 member? If so, who? What if it's like,
Okay,
what if it's
that's,
that?
yeah, yeah, then it doesn't seem like you have to have, yeah, okay, yeah.
Well, and I think too, going back to the first question you just replaced, you're running these names by everybody once the people,
Yeah,
because I mean,
Well, see, maybe
if you give a list of names to everyone and we worked with anyone, then that may come up for discussion anyway, even if they didn't say I worked with Sean on a project or I worked with Thomas on a project.
so I think the right time. That's a good segue to one of the things we were hoping to do today was to figure out who wants to. We're looking for, I think it's two. Thomas, help me remember.
Oh,
Is
sorry,
it
what?
two? We're looking for 2 additional volunteers for a review team. Is that right?
Oh, yeah, yes, we are.
I believe it's 2.
Yeah, I think it's 2.
So, because I think it's good we want to be able to talk about this process and certainly get feedback from the broader members if they know certain people, but to Amanda's point, right? Amanda is not going to have time to be part of the full process. So of the
So we were
of
thinking, I
the
think what we were thinking of is creating a kind of I don't know, review committee that would kind of review all the applicants and then bring to the larger group, make recommendations to the larger group. Does that make sense? Or does it make, yeah, does that make sense? That way everyone is, like, say we get 40, well, we're not gonna get 40, let's say we get 40 applicants for these 3 spots. I mean, if we decide that this whole group is gonna just go through 40 applicants, I think that's a little bit much. But if we have a small committee of, you know, subcommittee that kind of reviews all of them and then maybe even, you know, goes to the rubric already, and then the ones that come to the top or have the most numbers or whatever it is, they bring them to the full committee for a review rather than everybody who's applied, because, you know, that could really take forever. So what do people think about that?
So a nominating committee, right?
Oh, there you go. Thank you. Nominating committee. Yes.
Sense.
Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, I agree.
so of
Is
the
anybody gonna volunteer?
yeah, I was just gonna say so for the non-city staff people on this
Yeah,
call.
non-city stuff. Yeah.
I posted on the chat that I'll volunteer on that.
Was that Orlando?
Yes,
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Somebody else?
Anyone else? We have a few people. We have 4 people that are. Is that right? We have
Okay.
3 people that are not in attendance, so I can email them as well. But we can leave it open. Think about it, and I'll follow up with folks to see if there are any
Okay,
other
great.
volunteers. Briefly, I do want to make sure we have time for the conversation around the steering committee. So briefly, I want to just go to this, and hopefully just in a couple minutes, we can give feedback on this. These were the kind of two big categories that we came up with the co-chairs, and really it's around the two biggest questions in the application. And the idea that there's, there'll be awarded 0 to 10 points for each question, depending on their question. And number two, in particular, if we have kind of question prompts or factors that we want to include for the nominating group's eyes only, if we have factors that we want to put in there, please feel free to discuss now, or if there's an additional category, I will put in there, related to our earlier conversation, consider gaps in the current membership, just so that's a reminder to us to think about that when we're looking at the applications.
Yeah.
Thoughts on that? I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing so we can all see each other's lovely faces.
Heather, I had one other question about the questions for number 7 about diversity. Curious to know the group's thoughts about expanding that beyond race and ethnicity to include other underrepresented or marginalized groups, or however we want to phrase that, or do we want to keep that goal more focused? Just curious to know what other people think.
So before anyone responds to that, I do want to mention that that was the purpose of question 8, was to expand beyond that and to let people talk about any other intersecting identities or experiences they have. But to Kevin's point, if we wanted to call those things out specifically, those identities in 7, we could.
But well, I know we've probably gone through this already and I don't remember. But I wonder, I mean, it says, please tell us your race and ethnicity, but what if people don't really want to do that? Like, I wonder if there's another way of, well, maybe there isn't. It's just, well, maybe there's no other way to ask that, really. But I wonder if 7 and 8 could really just be combined into one question, really.
Well, it certainly is possible if they remain separate. It's pretty common for surveys to say, to offer a chance to mention how you identify, but there's also a choice of that would say would prefer to not say, or something to that
Yeah,
effect.
that's what I mean.
So we could include that if you all think that makes sense.
Or if you feel comfortable, or I don't know how it's worded.
Just
other
put
things.
optional or something.
Or option.
Is this going to be a handwritten, or are you going to do a Microsoft Forms or something?
So I wanted to bring that up. I'm tending to think we should do everything by online form nowadays, but give people the option to, if they prefer to do a digital version, I can email them a document to fill out, if that sounds good to everyone. And there is a way that we can, I can put on here that it's optional.
Yeah, you could put that, if you do it as a form, you can make it not required, and then they can skip
exactly.
the question if they don't want to respond.
Antonietta has her hand up. Hi, Antonietta. Thanks for being here. I didn't see you join us because I've been sharing.
Hello, yes. Hello, everyone. So I was just kind of waiting for everyone to finish with their suggestions. For number 7, is there a way that we can add some kind of disability, because there is no diversity without disability, you know what I mean? So I don't know if that's something that somewhere we can add in addition to race or ethnicity. See, I even know I'm saying that right. Okay.
Yeah, that's so I think the question is, do we add that into 7 or 8?
Well,
or does 7 and 8 become one? Should we just make 7
because
one?
that's why I'm suggesting that 7 and 8 become one, because then you're kind of covered it. And it's not like putting race and ethnicity in one idea of diversity and then, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And then maybe actually the thing that becomes separate is if you're an arts organization,
Oh, yeah,
right? Because that's kind of a different thing.
yeah, right.
Diversity.
The only thought I have about making diversity an optional question is then if that is a priority, how do we measure it or gauge it? You know, if people say, I don't want to answer that question, and maybe they don't end up knowing anybody, that feels a little tricky. I mean, I got a little bit like, oh, I don't know, that feels like a hard question because I know that not
I
everyone's
mean,
answering it, but how do we make a diverse committee if people aren't willing to answer the question?
I feel like if people aren't willing to talk about their diversity, this might be the wrong committee for them.
That's good. Okay.
Yeah, that's a good.
Then
It's,
let's leave
it's
that.
almost a trick question then.
But
So maybe-
seriously though, like
Yeah,
diversity is one of the things, diversity and equity is one of the things that we focus on a lot. If somebody can't even have that basic conversation,
Yeah.
then they might not be the right person for this committee.
Okay, that's a good way to think about it.
Hand up for a minute. Sorry, do you have something to add to this?
yeah, so hold on, I'm watching the edits before I say anything. Okay, so something like it says, please tell us your race and ethnicity. What if they don't want to share? So maybe having, okay, I guess seeing, the reason, I love that you put down the reason why we're asking for their race and ethnicity. That's great. AC3 prioritizes diversity. If you are comfortable sharing your race and ethnicity
That's good.
rather than demanding, I know we are demanding humans sometimes, but and so as a person with disability, I'm okay with the word disability. I don't know if anybody has a disability here, but rechecking your position with that word. So if there is what diversity means, unfortunately, to a lot of people. But as a person with disability, if I see diversity, that's going to include disability, but not everyone in this room thinks that, unfortunately. So that's why I'm here to speak for the community. So I'm just trying to find the word or sentence that would be right to include that.
Well, I wonder if the last sentence there, please share any additional identities of yours that are important to you. For example, or including, or how would you say it?
Okay.
For instance, or wait a minute, for example, I don't know what you say there. For instance, or including, or well, I don't know.
What
I don't know what word I would say,
yeah.
but then you could name
I
a
get
few
that.
things: disability, gender, I mean, yes, you could say gender.
Including but
Let
not
me read on to more and I'll email Heather directly by the end of the day.
Okay.
That sounds good, Antonia.
Okay. Yeah.
I was
Okay.
wondering if
Sounds
it could
good.
be something we put even in the first sentence so that we make clear that we're including ability, disability in our idea of diversity. But yeah, let's email about this. Blue, you've had your hand up for a
That's good.
while.
Wait,
Do you have-
Amanda had something. Wait a minute. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Amanda
Blue,
has
I'm sorry.
something.
Blue has had his hand up for a while now.
Sorry,
and
Blue.
I've skipped over
Yeah.
him a couple times, so I feel bad. Blue?
No problem at all. Two quick things. Number 4, we need to say that this person represents an arts organization.
I'm sorry, the interpreter couldn't hear that. Could someone repeat it?
Can you hear me okay? Anyone?
You're real quiet, Blue.
I'm sorry. Is that any better?
A little bit.
That better?
Oh, yeah.
Sorry about that. Number 4, do we mean to say and ask if the person represents an organization?
Oh.
As opposed to the organization joining.
Oh.
It seems to me that we're a committee of individuals, and we carry with us our organizational titles as appropriate. So for number 4, that seems to me that might be a distinction that's worth making. Do you represent an arts organization? And the name of that organization?
Okay, so I think maybe it goes to back, I'm gonna change number 2 to say, are you an artist? And then have,
Or representing an arts organization.
and then it's almost like, do you work for an arts organization? Would,
Work for, or can they just represent?
Yeah, maybe
So-
just represent,
so-
because
well, this is I think, Blue, are you saying that there's maybe a difference between representing, okay, right, okay,
Yeah,
so we can
yeah,
just say,
there is.
do you represent, are you representing? Because someone could be part of an arts organization, but not representing the arts
Yeah,
organization.
that's true.
And so I think that that's
And there are also people in marketing in this city who often represent arts organizations, even though they're not a part of that org.
We'll
They're
probably
just
be,
there. in
But I
marketing.
think we'll be able to determine that from their,
just, I had one other quick comment and for number 5, oh, it's number 6 now. If artist, tell us about your practice. To me, more common language would just be to ask for the artist bio there. I don't think you want artist statements for this. I don't think we need
Okay.
artist statements there. So I would just ask for the bio, which is appropriate for someone who's representing an organization and for an artist.
yeah,
Unless people disagree with me. I don't know. That's just something I
that's a
know.
good idea. No, I think it's good.
I'm gonna kind of workshop on the whole, are you part of
Okay.
an organization? Because we do need to get to, we want to know what groups, because people, to Blue's point, people could be part of multiple groups, but they might not be, and certainly
Mhm.
current members have that, but they might
Yeah.
not be representing one of those groups on the organization or on the, yeah, anyways, okay. So if I want to respect everyone's time, does everyone have a couple minutes? We'll say if you
Yeah,
have
I
a
can have a
hard
couple minutes.
stop and you need to leave, but otherwise I want to revisit the steering committee idea. So the arts and culture plan, we're finalizing the contract with Design Local. We have the artist engagement team selected. The consultant is coming to town the last week of April. And so we really want to pull together the core of the steering committee before that time so that we can all get together. So the idea is that hopefully, ideally, anyone on AC3 can participate in the steering committee if they would like, and to kind of make that accessible and not make it more of a time commitment than would make it hard to do. We're thinking of decreasing the number of AC3 meetings to just the 2 critical meetings, which would be around August and October, where we're really budget planning for next year's percent for the arts funding. And then the steering committee would be 4 meetings, 1 a quarter for the next year. So that if you were on AC3 and you were part of the steering committee, it would be 6 meetings total, which is what AC3 is at anyway right now. So it would not be any additional meeting time or effort to do both AC3 and the steering committee. So having said all that, who is here, who the non-city staffers that are here, who would like to participate in the steering committee for the arts and culture plan? I see a yes from Amanda, Thomas, Annette. Antonietta, would you like to participate in the steering committee for the arts and culture plan? And no pressure, if people want to think about this, I can follow up with folks at end of week, because I'm going to, Sean, okay, Antonietta said, if I'm not applying, okay, right, so, we are talking about, the steering committee for the arts and culture plan, so, yeah, okay, cool, Antonietta. Orlando dropped off, so I'll follow up with him. And then Blue, did you want to participate on the steering committee for the plan? Okay, cool. All right. So, oh, we didn't do timeline for the vacancy, to fill the vacancies. So let's say, I think it's maybe feasible for us to really, in the next week or two, finalize the application and the scoring rubric, and then put the call out. And from there, do we want to give people 30 days to respond? Is 30 days a good time to respond? Okay. Okay, great. So I'll be following up with everyone to kind of just fine tune all these things. Thank you so much, all of you, for your time. Are the artist engagement people announced? We selected them. We haven't made an announcement.
There's no, yeah.
Does someone here want to make that announcement?
No, go ahead. You can make it.
Okay. So Sean is one of them. Sean here, our very own Sean Dunwoody. Oh my gosh, why am I'm gonna hang on. Okay. Paula Macas Bechart is another. We have 4 total.
What was the name
Paula.
again, please? Can you spell that? I didn't catch the name, please.
Yes, absolutely. It's Paola, first name, last name Bechart, Betchart. I'm going to put this in the chat box too. Let me do that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. We go. Any other questions? Great. Thank you all so much. Have a good rest of the evening, and we'll all talk soon. Bye.
Thanks, and thank you guys for all that hard
Thanks,
work.
everyone.